What's up, gamers, and welcome back for more WotC-20. Today's matchup is Dark Flaaffy versus Meganium Eggs Feet Tuff, or at least that's what I see in the title. So I have not seen either of these decks before. I have seen Wigglytuff and I have seen Meganium, but combining them together will be interesting. And Dark Flaaffy, brand new build from Papa Fluff himself, so we'll see how that goes. And that's a Koga Zubat. Okay. Something tells me this will be a lot of cards that, once again, I have not seen before, even though I feel like I know the format very well. So I'll do my best to keep you guys updated with attacks and where I think this game might be heading. But yeah, for now, it looks like we have a grass attach to the Cleffa against an opening Hoot Hoot. So Cleffa in hand for Dark Flaaffy. I see Goldberry, a Dark Dragonair for sure. Can't see much else in the hand. It looks like the Cleffa is about to join the bench, and it does. Worth noting that a Focus Band did get dropped on the Koga Zubat, which has a grass and colorless attack called Group Attack. So, kind of like Do the Wave, that'll do 10 damage times the number of Koga Zubats you have in play. But before you do any damage, you may search your deck for any number of basic Pokemon named Koga Zubats and put them on your bench. So obviously you can't do that if your bench is full, and you can't fill it beyond the bench, but kind of a cool way to power up Do the Wave. We'll see if we'll see how that works out with Meganium. Not sure if Meganium will be there purely for its ability or if it could attack. But with Meganium down, you would get a single attack with Koga Zubat off. So pretty powerful search effect on a stick. The lightning attached to Cleffa is going to keep that Hoot Hoot in the active, so Meganium's Cleffa will be able to get some free eking off here. An Execute comes down, which is obviously the eggs component of Mega Eggs, and a Jungle Jigglypuff. So computer search, we'll see a Tuff get discarded, along with, looks like this is a tough choice, a Focus Band. I saw a Gust in hand. I assume there's another Wigglytuff in hand if you're going to put one in the bin. One of the best damage dealers in format. And a big deck search, so while that's going on, I'll probably have to pull up some cards for reference here. Particularly Flaaffy, per the title. I see a DCE in the deck list there, and there's a Chikorita, so I assume that will come right onto the bench. That is the first printing of Chikorita from Neo Genesis. Of course, there are two. That's the lower HP, 40 HP one, with 2 attacks. We'll see if those come into effect, but they're both 1 attach each. And Dark Dragonair will come down for Dark Flaaffy. So super powerful effect. You can go into your deck once a turn, and you can just pull out a evolution card of your choice. So it looks like they'll trigger it. I assume it'll be to pull out a Furret. A lot of support cards. It could also be to pull out the Noctowl, which would then turn it into a free retreater. That makes a lot more sense, actually. And then we'll have to worry about Glaring Gaze and the chaos that that brings to a table. If you're not familiar with Glaring Gaze, Noctowl only has 60 HP, but it can free retreat. You usually aren't going to attack with it. It does have the standard wing attack that you see on a lot of cards. For 3 colorless, it does 30. But once a turn, flip your coin of choice, and if heads, you can look at your opponent's hand. If there's any trainers there, pick one, and they have to shuffle it into their deck. So hyper disruptive. Goldberry comes down on the Dark Dragonair. And we will be gusting up at Chikorita. Chikorita only has 1 pip to retreat, so not the worst thing to have stock, but this will guarantee an Eek, more of a tempo gust play. And tilting Noctowl to indicate that a Glaring Gaze is being attempted, and it is ahead, so we get to see a full spread here. And the only card that was targetable with Glaring Gaze looked like a breeder, so we might not see any Bayleaf in this deck for the Chikorita Evo line. And with such a wide line, you're dealing with Wigglytuff, you're dealing with Execute and Executor, you're dealing with Meganium, you have Koga Zubats in there, assumedly 4 of them. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no Bayleaf, just to make room for enough grass energy and enough slots to have all of these Pokemon lines.
I'm gonna gust up Apom.
And now you can see that there was a Furret drawn in hand for Dark Flaaffy, so we'll keep an eye on that. Figuring out where a grass attachment can go right now. And it will go on to the Execute.
Okay, got it. 2.
Stadium.
And there's our first Mareep of the game. So that Execute, by the way, which is now an Executor, was from Jungle, but the most common Executor that we see is from Aquapolis for that Called Shot attack. Scales very well with Meganium. Looks like we're going to start attaching 2 Mareep. That is a very vanilla Mareep. It has 50 HP. It can headbutt for 10, and that's about it. That is from Neo Destiny. Evolutionary Light will go and pull out another evolution card. Assumedly, this will be the Dark Flaaffy.
6.
It only triggers when I evolve it. When I evolve it.
And a little bit of Deck Peep going on as well. So, again, Glaring Gaze and Evolutionary Light. You're going to have some long turns here and there. Probably a little bit of counting. Alright, instead we're going to see a Dark Ampharos. Okay. Not a card we see very often. Between that and the Dark Dragonair, I assume there will be some Rocket Hideout Stadium play going on at some point. Dark Ampharos only has 70 HP, but it does have the Pokemon power Conductivity. Whenever your opponent attaches an energy card from their hand to a Pokemon, it will deal 10 damage to that Pokemon as a power. So you can't stack them, unfortunately. And Dark Ampharos can also swing for 50 for a Lightning attachment and a DCE. Just discards all Lightning energy attached to the Dark Ampharos, but it is an option.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks like Furret has now gone to fetch DCE, and Furret and Dark Noctowl and Dark Dragonair, they are a lot of supporting lines, but Dark Dragonair kind of fuels Furret, so it makes sense. Really relying on a lean package for what I assumed would be primarily Dark Flaaffy, and not really Dark Ampharos. I think Dark Ampharos is just a one-of.
Searching for the evolution, the Ampharos, I was like, we're not going to use this one?
I search every turn so that I can fur it. Because like this into a free card for the scavenger hunt, but I was like, oh, I already attached.
Alright, no clear winner so far on board setup. Everyone's setting up pretty equally. Chikorita will attach just to retreat to put back up Cleffa. Now we're going to try to Eek on Eek. And it is good. So both sides setting up fairly nicely. I just saw an energy removal in a hand. Ooh, 2 darkness energies in hand as well for Dark Flaaffy's side.
Final Fantasy games on PlayStation 1.
And we're gonna gust. Oh, nope, that was an energy removal. Whenever I see a card pointed to like that, I just assume it's a gust. Dark energy comes down on the Dark Dragonair. Interesting. It can swing, and it can benefit from darkness energy, but Usually not your primary line of offense in a given deck.
There's other ones down there going to.
Noctowl gets the glaring gaze off, so let's see. There was a Gust,
This one.
Breeder, and Focus Band, so pretty much allowing the Breeder to stick around, and that will cause Meganium to come out next turn. Pretty quick snap grab to have that Gust put away. All right, and we see a fan club 4-1. I assume we'll just see another Mareep come out, and instead it's a Hoot Hoot. So attacking options are going to be that solo Mareep, and based on how attaches are coming down, that Dark Dragonair as well. Alright, more Eek on Eek action, going full setup, and that was considered a Tails. So draw for turn. Here comes Meganium, I assume. Yep. Alright, so now all grass energy are double counted, so Koga Zubat can attack. Called Shot for Exeggutor can deal 20 to the bench instead of 1. And the Cleffa can Eek with 2 grass. Same difference. Another Focus Band. I thought we saw 1 discarded already, so that's a lot of Focus Bands. And an Elm will mean no more turners for turn, but we'll see if we start attacking here. Bringing in Koga's Zubat at this point doesn't really deal meaningful damage. If there was 1 more bench slot opened, it would at least be good enough to take out a Cleffa. Instead, Exeggutor comes in. I guess you could go for a Super Explosion, but you have to discard the energy up front before you can flip to see how many heads you hit. Looks like it was a Tails anyway. Unclear if they were attempting a Called Shot or a Super Explosion on the Cleffa, but if it was Super Explosion, would have had to discard the energy up front, and it's energy cards, so Super Explosion does not really benefit from Meganium. Alright, second Noctowl comes down, so we're going to see a lot of disruption here. Every turn I expect we'll see a Scavenger Hunt, an Evolutionary Light, and 2 Glaring Gazes. And a lot of Tails, so keeping things running here. Still no prizes taken from either side. We'll see if that gets blown wide open. Waiting for attaches to come onto that Wigglytuff. It seems like the best option to take prizes right now.
Thank you.
3 colorless is a little awkward with Meganium. You can get a little value out of it, but it's not super clean.
What does that mean?
If it would be, if the attack would be knocked out.
Okay.
And a DCE onto the Dark Dragonair. Okay.
None for Magmar. That knocks it out. Okay.
Eek for free. And we'll see if I have to pull up Dark Dragonair's attack.
They're all in here. That's the situation.
Sounds like the Dark Flaaffies might all be prized. That is awkward. Makes sense though, you have Evolutionary Light and we haven't seen one yet. Nothing is benefiting Dark Flaaffy from sitting on a basic Mareep on the bench.
They are, in fact, all prized.
Unsure how many Dark Flaaffy are in the build, if it's 2 or 3 or however many, but... Alright, now Called Shot, doing 40 to the bench, so... As long as you can hit around the Cleffa, that's pretty good. it would take out the Mareep. Nah, you don't remember if that's a 40 or not. Let's see. Too many Mareep. That's a 50 HP Mareep. I like the 40 HP one from Neo Genesis just because Static Electricity is such a weird ramp attack, and Thunder Shock is generally good. Alright, attempting the called shot the Mareep. It was a Tails. It wouldn't have been a one-shot anyway. And one more attach and you can start sniping away the Knock Towel, so that would actually kind of be terrible for Dark Flaaffy. Ooh, and the Dark Dragonair, actually. It's only got 60 HP. That Goldberry won't do anything if called shot hits 3 attaches here. I assume there's got to be a Stadium that can come into play to help alleviate that one more turn, but first Glaring Gaze attempt is a heads. Looks like Oak is the only target. We got, let's see, a Chikorita there.
40 or 60, which is not enough to KO.
Another Brox, or Koga Zubat, I should say, and I didn't catch the other E-Reader Grass, but I assume it was an Exeggutor?
Being the case, I'm just going to eek again.
Okay, we're going to eek again. Kind of tough to play Dark Flaaffy when all your Dark Flaaffy are prized.
Goldberry heals.
Between turns, yeah. Removes 40.
This is looking pretty bad for Dark Flaaffy.
It's like a delayed super potion, but it doesn't remove the energy.
Now, hiding behind Cleffa might work for a while, but at some point, I mean, Dark Dragonair has 2 Darkness Energy. It could come up and use Tail Strike, which is 20, flip, deal an additional 20 on a head. So if you get a heads with Tail Strike, it's 40 plus another 20 from the Darkness Energies, dealing 60. Isn't bad, but it's not perfect. But at least it could hide from Called Shot if it was in the active. Oof. Alright. No hiding from that. That is the first prize of the match. Goes through the Goldberry, or rather it just takes the knockout before Goldberry can proc between turns. Puts 2 Dark Energy in the bin. Those are not easy to get back. And now Furret is powering up, and it might have to start swinging. Would have liked to see this last turn from the Dark Dragonair. You know, if you got a single heads on that Dark Dragonair, you could have put Furret into a follow-up knockout against this Exeggutor, even though there are focus bands on board, but we're going to have to ignore that for now. There's another Mareep. Town V doing the best it can. This is just how it goes sometimes with WotC. You have what you need prized, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, and you just gotta do your best and not rebuild your entire deck after the match. Do you see a Warp in hand, another DCE? I guess Noctowl can come in and swing an Exeggutor. Definitely don't want to lose the Furret.
Spinning attack for 30.
Alright, spinning attack for 30. Okay, that is a slow road. Alright, grass now on the Wigglytuff, so that's going to become scary in one more attach. Alright, Called Shot takes out the Cleffa. Don't have to flip when it's on the bench. That is 2 prizes now taken. Yeah, spinning attack's looking good again here. You can't attach a Darkness for Furret to reach the critical numbers you need. And you also don't want the Furret taking that kind of damage in between turns. At least all the Glaring Gazes are heads, right? Oh, it looks like maybe that E-Reader is a Bayleaf. I just assumed with Breeder and how tight the lists are, it can't possibly have enough space to include Bayleaf and Breeder, but looking at the attacks, I think that's exactly what it is. Alright, and Furret is one more attack away. Yep, okay, so yeah, that is a Bayleaf. That was an Expedition Bayleaf. based on the attack pips and the art lily pads. That Exeggutor now is at 60 out of 80. Of course, there's Focus Band, but Furret, by being in the active, has been safe from called shot and has been able to keep tagging energy onto the Exeggutor. Looks like one Noctowl might survive this onslaught, depending on that Focus Band. Execute comes down, and now you have to wonder if Wigglytuff is just going to come in. I can't imagine this list has enough space for Strength, Charms, and Plus Powers, which it would be very common in a Tuff build, but not mandatory by any means. Exeggutor will be retreating and bringing in the Wigglytuff. It only has one attach.
20 Magmar, 10
Assumingly there's one in hand. It's a DCE. That's more than enough. And it will only mark 60, so not a clean KO. Oh, they got 50? Okay, 60. I wouldn't have minded seeing the called shot, trade prizes, worst case scenario, or best case scenario, you're taking out both Noctowls. I think it would have been worth the risk. You probably don't want your opponent to take a prize and find the Dark Flaaffy, but the board state is so out of control right now, it's probably acceptable if they do. Alright, and that was Tails for one Glaring Gaze, and the second Glaring Gaze is a Heads. There's the Gust again. And Furret continues to deal the most damage out of anything for Dark Flaaffy. 30 on Wigglytuff is going to take forever. And a DC goes to the bin now for Dark Flaaffy off of a decently timed energy removal. Taking the knockout with Do the Wave puts Furret in the bin. Not many options here for Dark Flaaffy. Playing to outs, you can bring in Noctowl, but 60 HP, it's just going to go right down. See a Trash Exchange in hand. Probably as a way to recover Darkness energy. And with Dark Dragonair. Oof, that is going to take a little bit of time if the plan is to start attacking again with Dark Dragonair. Still haven't seen a Rocket's Hideout. That energy boost would be great right now for Dark Dragonair. And see what comes off of Trash Exchange, give us a little bit of an idea of what's in the deck. And a cut before Trash Exchange takes out the trash. Those are barely on camera.
I don't think so. Yeah, alright. Oak feels like a sport because of standard.
Alright. Oh, the attached return was the Darkness energy, so this is probably a pass as far as attacking or not goes. And at this point, you can dangle the Mareep. It's just not a Mareep that can deal paralysis or anything like that, which is exactly why I like the 40 HP one. Nothing in hand to really see with Glaring Gaze, but if you hit a heads, I guess you can see what your opponent continues to draw. Usually we leave the hand face up. It doesn't really matter here. And here comes some baby stalling. Oh boy. And 3 prizes left. A Gust on the Dark Dragonair. Wonder if we'll see a scoop here. I don't see a line of play for Dark Flaaffy to come back. Okay, yep. That's a scoop. Looks like there's no ways to come back. Alright, don't forget the shuffle. There's 3 Dark Flaaffys in the prize pool. That's brutal, but I look forward to seeing these decks refined. Some very cool ones to see. Interesting combos from combining Tuff and Meganium. Didn't know there was room for that around here, so thank you for watching, and have a good one.
It's like as fun as it can get.